This is the tale of a shark twice the size of the most ferocious dinosaur known to mankind. Yes, the T-Rex. With 5 rows of 250 teeth, each the size of a banana, this gigantic shark would have been the nightmare of humans and beasts alike. Its jaws were strong enough to crush cars and big enough to swallow multiple humans in a single bite. That was the Megalodon, and its name literally meant giant tooth. But there was a lot more to this behemoth than just giant teeth. Megalodon was not only the biggest shark to ever exist, but it was also one of the largest fish in the history of the world. And to top it all off, it also has the strongest bite force of any animal in history. Let's start off with its physical appearance. Now, the Megalodon is classified as a mackerel shark, so it's possible that the Meg's shape and general form would have been similar to that of typical sharks we see today. In terms of its physical appearance, the Megalodon has been compared to different shark species, including the great white shark, the basking shark, the whale shark, and the sand tiger shark. Whether or not it actually resembled these sharks, we'll never know, but based on comparisons, it's thought that the Megalodon had a streamlined and elongated body tapering towards the tail, and was equipped with powerful fins to propel it through the water. Its jaws may have been blunter and wider compared to that of the great white, but the fins were probably similar in shape. On the other hand, if the Megalodon was more similar to the basking shark or whale shark, it means it would have had a crescent-shaped tail fin paired with a small anal and a second dorsal fin. But the most controversial aspect of the Megalodon's appearance is its size, cause sharks are made up of cartilage, and cartilage does not fossilize. So all we have on the Megalodon are fragmentary jaw bones and tooth fossils. Based on these fossils and a few fossilized vertebrae, the maximum total length of this magnificent creature was calculated to be between 47 to 67 feet, or 14.2 to 20.3 meters. That's bigger than even the largest T-Rex. The average length, though, was found to be around 34 feet, or 10.5 meters. However, this is the estimate when comparing it to a great white shark, which isn't exactly correct. Research on an incomplete set of Megalodon vertebrae showed that it couldn't possibly have supported the body shape of a great white. The combined length of the vertebrae turned out to be less than the estimated total length of the Megalodon, which couldn't be possible. That's because the original estimates were made by comparing it to the broad, bulky body of a great white shark. Now we've realized that Megalodons would have actually been better suited for a longer, more slender body. So yeah, the Megalodon could have been even bigger than our current estimates. But until we get more fossils, these are the numbers we're going to go with. And based on these estimates, the Megalodon would have been about the same size or slightly bigger than the whale shark, which is the longest shark today, at about 62 feet or 18.8 meters for the biggest individual. However, you'll see in a while that this was the only similarity between the two. While the whale shark is a peaceful filter feeder, the Megalodon is the exact opposite. Still, one difference for now is weight, because Megalodon was unrivaled in that category. A 56-foot or 17-meter Megalodon would have weighed about 130,000 pounds or 59 tons, which is more than twice the size of the biggest whale shark today. And the biggest individual could have easily maxed out at about 250,000 pounds or 114 tons. This means that not only was Megalodon the biggest shark to have ever lived, but it also exceeded any of the biggest predators to have ever walked the planet or inhabited Earth's prehistoric seas. It was larger than the Spinosaurus, the T-Rex, or any massive theropod dinosaurs alive during the Mesozoic era. The Megalodon also exceeded some of the biggest marine reptiles discovered so far, including the Basilosaurus and Tylosaurus. You might be wondering why it grew to such huge sizes in the first place. That'll all become clear when you see the giants it had to compete with. So stay tuned till the end to see them for yourself. For now, its size tells us at least one thing. A creature this big would have taken over the whole planet, and not surprisingly, it actually did. Megalodon had a very wide geographic range during its existence. Fossils of the Megalodon have been recovered from every continent except Antarctica, meaning it had a global distribution. However, it is more commonly found in tropical and subtropical climates. In fact, scientists have been able to determine the likely conditions of this shark's habitat by studying its tooth fossils. Based on this, it has been determined that the Megalodon lived in waters within a temperature range of about 35 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, or 1 to 24 degrees Celsius. That could only be possible if the Megalodon was warm-blooded. Yes, unlike most sharks and even most fish, Megalodon could control its temperature internally and not depend on the environment. Plus, it exhibited mesothermy, which is the ability to keep its body temperature higher than its surroundings by conserving metabolic heat. Because of this, the Megalodon would have been able to endure and survive in low temperature conditions. As a result, Megalodon was able to thrive in a wide range of habitats. This includes shallow coastal environments, swampy lagoons, continental shelves, and deep offshore areas. But just because it survived everywhere does not mean the environment had no effect on it. Fossils of the Megalodon discovered so far show that the average body size of this shark varied from one region to the other. Generally, specimens discovered in the southern hemisphere tend to be larger on average compared to those found in the northern hemisphere. The average length of the Megalodon specimens discovered in the northern hemisphere is about 31 feet, or 9.6 meters, while those from the southern hemisphere were about 38 feet, or 11.6 meters long. A similar variation is seen for individuals that lived in the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. The Pacific Megalodons were bigger, with an average length of about 36 feet, 10.9 meters, compared to 31 feet, or 9.5 meters for the Atlantic Megs. Whatever the size though, one thing is clear: Megalodon ruled wherever it went, and that's obvious from its 20 million year long reign. Megalodon lived during the Cenozoic era, from the early Miocene to the Pliocene epochs, approximately 23 to 3.6 million years ago. And the climate for this time couldn't have been better for this gigantic shark, since it was generally warmer than it is today, with fluctuating temperatures from time to time. But while the Earth experienced a relatively warm climate during the early Miocene, it gradually cooled during the late Miocene and into the Pliocene. These temperature changes probably affected the distribution and abundance of various marine species, including the Megalodon and the animals it preyed on. In fact, it could have influenced the Megalodon so much that it probably became the cause of its extinction, but more on that later. For now, let's focus on the time it did enjoy terrorizing the oceans, because almost no marine animal was safe from the Meg. This is simply because Megalodon was a very highly specialized and efficient predator, and the credit goes to its natural body structure. This shark had a streamlined body with a large and muscular tail, suggesting that it was an active swimmer capable of cruising through the water with great speed and agility. In fact, scientists have been able to estimate a top speed for Megalodon based on its proposed body proportions and comparison to other living shark species. A cruising speed of about 3.1 miles or 5 kilometers per hour has been proposed for the Megalodon. This is equivalent to a mean speed of about 0.09 body lengths per second for a 52-foot or 16-meter long Megalodon. At this pace, it moves similar to a sloth climbing through the trees. Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but the cruising speed in body lengths would have been greater than that of any living mackerel shark. It's actually quite simple. If you look at a great white shark, it's only 13 feet or 4 meters long on average, and its cruising speed is 5 miles per hour or 8 kilometers per hour. In contrast, the Megalodon, which is almost 5 times bigger, has a slightly less speed of 3.1 miles per hour or 5 kilometers per hour. So the Megalodon was obviously a much better swimmer, even 20 million years ago. That could also be why it's thought to be a solitary hunter, because let's be honest, if two Megalodons started hunting together, they'd wipe the ocean in no time. And you don't have to take my word for it. Research published in August 2022 estimated the Megalodon would have been able to devour prey the size of orca whales, which could be up to 26 feet or 8 meters long and weigh more than 8,000 pounds or 3 tons in just 5 bites. So it's safe to say Megalodon was not just an apex predator, but the king of apex predators. Its diet was probably made up of fish, baleen whales, toothed whales such as ancestral forms of modern sperm whales, dolphins, killer whales, sirenians such as dugongs and manatees, and seals. Seals and dolphins might make sense, but how could it possibly take on whales? Well, its massive teeth, shaped like broad triangles with serrated edges, were perfectly adapted for grasping and tearing apart large prey. Plus, the Megalodon's jaws were also huge, just like the rest of its body. In fact, they were so massive that they could swallow 2 adult humans standing side by side. In addition to being massive, the jaws were lined with up to 276 banana-sized teeth, each of which measured about 7.1 inches or 18 centimeters diagonally. So they were more knives than teeth. And luckily, we don't have to guess the kind of damage they could have done. In 2008, a group of scientists conducted an experiment to measure the bite force of an 8-foot, 2.5-meter long great white shark. They then used these measurements to estimate the bite force of a megalodon by scaling the results to match its maximum size and conservative minimum and maximum body mass. They estimated that a megalodon's bite force ranged between 100,000 to 180,000 newtons. In comparison, a modern great white shark has a bite force 10 times less than that, around only 18,000 newtons. And if these estimates are accurate, the megalodon may have had the most powerful bite of any animal ever. Not even large carnivorous dinosaurs like the T-Rex or gigantic prehistoric crocodiles could have come close to this kind of bite. But natural advantages were not the only weapon in its arsenal. You could say the megalodon was a born hunter, considering its highly effective attacking strategies. Unlike great white sharks that tend to attack prey by targeting the underbelly, Megalodon likely attacked large prey from the side, delivering a fatal and final bite to the heart and lung area. The shark's teeth were strong enough to bite through tough skin and bones and could inflict a fatal blow on even the biggest prey. And yes, we have actual proof of this. Fossils of large baleen whales from the Miocene epoch have been found with huge bite marks on the rib cages like this, and it doesn't take a genius to know which animal it could have come from. And based on multiple other similar fossils with bite marks on different parts, it's thought that megalodons probably adapted their attack patterns based on the specific size of the prey they hunted. For instance, they probably rammed smaller whales with their blunt snout, disorienting them from delivering a fatal bite, while they killed sperm whales with a single bite to the head. It's also likely that the megalodon immobilized larger prey by biting off parts of their flipper and tails before killing and feeding on them. Still, there were a few animals that wouldn't have gone down so easily in front of this behemoth. Think about it. Megalodon couldn't possibly have been the only behemoth in its habitat, especially considering everything was gigantic in the prehistoric era. The seals, dolphins, sea turtles, and sirenians in its ecosystem were certainly easy prey for this mammoth shark. But baleen whales like the 22-foot or 6.8-meter Cetotherium and sperm whales like the 20-foot or 6-meter Orlophyseta would have been easy targets. Then, there are also animals that would have fought back. These include the humongous macroraptorials of the time, which were carnivorous whales that ate just about anything in their sight, including other whales. The 23-foot-long or 7-meter Brygomypheceta shigensis was one of the smaller ones among these macroraptorials. The largest out of all macroraptorials, Livyatan, would have been every animal's nightmare. Some of the whales from this genus grew to a maximum length of about 57 feet or 17 meters, had the largest biting teeth of any known animal, longer than 1 foot, and targeted the same prey species as the megalodon. However, the massive size of the megalodon would have given it an edge over these predators. So while it may have fought these animals for prey or defense, it's certain that adult megalodons did not become prey for any animal in history. The young megalodons, though, would have had a harder time, since it's thought that they were likely preyed on by other large predatory sharks, like great hammerhead sharks, which existed in the same time period and regions. As for adult megalodons, the only animals to take on them head-to-head were other megalodons. Yes, these sharks, like modern sharks, may have competed against each other, and also may have exhibited cannibalism, with larger individuals preying on smaller ones. This would have been especially true for young megalodons, way before they started swimming in open waters. See, unlike many fish that simply lay eggs, lamniform sharks, like the megalodon, have a different reproductive method. Their eggs hatch inside the mother's body, and the young sharks stay there until they're big enough to survive on their own. During the prenatal growth period, the baby sharks need to eat to grow. The only problem is that everything looks like food to them, including their own siblings. So instead of finding food outside, they eat the eggs inside their mother's body. If their siblings hatch before them, they eat their siblings too. Sharks are known for being ferocious eaters, and baby sharks are no different. We don't have any direct evidence from fossils to prove that baby megalodons behaved this way, but it's likely they did. The massive size of adult megalodons supports this idea. This enormous size was probably both a cause and an effect of the evolutionary pressures in the prehistoric ocean ecosystem. Given their size, each embryo would have needed significant space and resources to thrive, and cannibalizing other embryos would have given them more room to grow. So, it seems like these beasts were literally willing to do anything to survive. But if they were willing to go to such extreme measures, how on earth did they go extinct? Around 2.6 million years ago, the megalodon disappeared, and there are a few possible reasons for this extinction. This period marked the beginning of the Pleistocene, also known as the Ice Age, characterized by cooler temperatures and long periods of glaciation. These climate changes could have directly affected the megalodon or impacted its food sources. The shift in climate led to a restructuring of whale habitats. As the environment changed, more productive areas with abundant food formed closer to the poles, making whales more migratory and spending more time in these colder regions. This could have posed a problem for Megalodon if its prey moved to waters too cold for the shark to follow. For a long time, scientists believed this change in whale behavior might have contributed to the extinction of the world's biggest shark. But as you already know, Megalodons were mesothermic and could survive at even an extreme temperature of 34 degrees Fahrenheit or 1 degree Celsius. So if changes in whale movements and habitats weren't the primary problem for Megalodon, then what was? Well, the timing of Megalodon's disappearance coincides with two significant changes in the animal kingdom. One was the emergence of new predators that it had to compete with. Around the middle of the Miocene, the biggest Leviathan species, Leviathan melville, appeared. And if you're a Moby Dick fan and wondering where you've heard the name before, it's literally the same deadly whale from the novel. Leviathan had short, powerful jaws and big, strong teeth designed for biting into flesh. At 57 feet long, or 17 meters, this whale wasn't just eating squid, it was preying on other whales. And Leviathan was just one among many carnivorous whale species during the Middle Miocene. In the late Miocene, another competitor appeared in the fossil record, the earliest ancestor of the great white shark, Carcharodon habeli. This shark was a direct competitor to the Megalodon, as evidenced by tooth marks found on fossils of the same whale species that the Megalodon ate, such as the small whale Piscobalaena. A few million years later, in the early Pliocene, the first fossils of the modern great white shark, Carcharodon calcareus, emerged. Megalodon now had to compete with these newer, more agile sharks. At the same time, some of the Megalodon's most important prey, particularly whales, were in decline. By the end of the Pliocene, the number of whale species decreased dramatically from about 60 to 40. Many of these whales were filter feeders that relied on krill, which in turn fed on microscopic algae called diatoms. Around 3 million years ago, there was a significant drop in diatom diversity in the oceans. In simple words, fewer diatoms led to fewer krill, resulting in fewer whales. With less food available, Megalodon had to compete even more fiercely with the smaller, faster great white shark. Being larger is advantageous when it provides access to a different food group, but when it doesn't, it just means requiring more food to survive. Consequently, around 2.6 million years ago, the last of the Megalodons disappeared from the fossil record. However, like the disappearance of whales left a lasting mark on the Megalodon, its own disappearance left an even more lasting mark on all marine life. These are changes that we are still experiencing today as part of Megalodon's legacy. In order to understand this, we gotta trace our steps back to the time the shark went extinct. As a result, In the last couple of million years, great white sharks and orcas took over the role of apex predators. However, these much smaller predators couldn't hunt the larger whales that Megalodon could eat. Modern great white sharks often prey on dolphins half their size, so it's possible that the 18-meter Megalodon was able to hunt whales up to 9 meters long, which was simply too large for other predators to handle. Consequently, after the Megalodon went extinct, the size of whales dramatically increased. During the Pleistocene, the oceans became colder and productivity at the poles improved, leading to a resurgence of diatoms. This new, productive environment, combined with the absence of large predators, allowed whales to grow to sizes twice as large as the biggest whales of the Pliocene. This is why the blue whale, the largest animal ever, appeared in the fossil record less than 2 million years ago. Without 18-meter sharks like Megalodon, the oceans could support 25-meter whales. The Megalodon and its ancestors had a successful run, thriving for over 20 million years by evolving to eat larger marine mammals. However, as those large mammals began to decline and competition with other predators like great white sharks increased, the Megalodon could not keep up. It's interesting to note that the largest great white sharks today are about a meter longer than their Miocene ancestors and grow faster while they are young, much like Megalodon did. It took nearly 30 million years for the mega-toothed sharks to evolve into the enormous Megalodon, a transformation driven by the gradual increase in the size of whales and other marine mammals. Today, whales are already huge and face very few predators, leaving the role of a super shark open. Who knows, the great white shark could very well evolve into the Megalodon of the future, and giant sharks might once again patrol our oceans. And that's a wrap. Which prehistoric fish scares you more, the merciless Megalodon or the terrifying Leviathan? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy learning about ancient creatures, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more cool stuff about the past.